You best be interviewing the old-timers before it's too late. They've got a lot of great stories to tell.
Calling Bob. Today is June 26, 2009. He was involved with Devon Stansfield on the Fillmore site.
Hello, hello.
Hello, is Bob there?
This is Bob.
Bob, this is Terry Carter calling you. The reason I'm calling is your involvement with Devon Stansfield down in Fillmore a lot of years ago. You know, I found a set of symbols like that Jose had there in Fillmore. I found a set in Provo, and probably 15, 20 years ago, and I've been tracking down everything I could about those symbols. And then Devon Stansfield Jr. got a hold of me here a few days ago and piqued my curiosity about Fillmore again. And I was wondering if you got a few minutes to talk to me about your involvement with the Fillmore site.
Had nothing to do with the Fillmore site as far as the gold. It was strictly with Devon Stansfield and a legend, that silver had been buried up that canyon.
Years ago, I put on my website the story as I knew it about Jose and Devon and those other two guys being killed.
So you're the person that put it on that website?
Yes.
What's it called?
The Treasure Hunter's Hideout?
Yeah, Treasure Hunter's Hideout. Because I've looked at that and I've read that story.
Yeah, that was me, and that was strictly from Jose's side of the story. And years later, Mrs. Stansfield emailed me and says that I wasn't telling the truth about her husband and her side of the story, but I didn't know her side of the story, and I emailed her and told her that tell me their side of the story, because I'd like to get the story right, and she never did.
She never did. Huh?
And then I talked to Devon Stansfield Jr. here 2 days ago, and he says he really doesn't know the story, and in fact he's doing a documentary on it just so that he could get to know his father, which is kind of a neat idea for him. I think that's a great idea. So
I had no. The first time I heard anything about that was when I read your account.
Ah, okay.
About a year and a half ago.
Oh, okay. All right.
All I knew was that Devon had heard about a story or let's see, when he might have had something to do with that. I don't know, because I just don't know anything about the background.
Yeah, you was only dealing with what you guys was working on, huh?
Yeah, he mentioned about Devon The only thing I know about Devon was that he heard this story about a young boy or a family that had some picnicking or something up the Fillmore Canyon there. And then it started raining really bad. And so, and he was a ways away. I think it was he and his sister. I'm trying to pull this out of 40 years.
Yeah.
I'm remembering. And he had... Anyway, he was away. They were away from the family, up the canyon, and it started raining really bad. So they looked around and they found some kind of a cave or hole in the ground. And so they went out into that and waited until it stopped raining. And while they were in there, they noticed this kind of big pile of black things sitting there, and he rubbed one, or this is the story, and he rubbed one, and it kind of turned, you could see that it was kind of silverish, or something like that, and then stopped raining, so he went out, he and his, I don't know if it was a girl or another guy or what, just two young kids, and eventually found their way back to the pit where they had been picnicking, and he tried, I don't think at that time he said anything to his family about it. it wasn't until later he said something, and they tried to come back and find it, and they couldn't find it.
Huh.
And so that was a story that was circulating in Fillmore.
Was that circulated by Del Allgood? Do you know?
I don't have the faintest. I don't know.
Did you know Del Allgood? He owned that rock shop there in town, did the artwork and all that? Okay.
No, I don't, other than by reading your site and so forth.
Okay.
I have a sister that lives in Fillmore.
Oh, okay.
And so, we've been by there. I'd been by there a few times and so forth. And she lived there then even. And so this is what Devon told us.
Okay.
And so he was interested in finding that silver. And so he contacted a person by the name of, Dial, Peterson, I think, but I can't think of his last name now. Anyway, that had invented a machine or some kind of a device that could pinpoint metal under the ground. And so, from my understanding, he was paying this person, I don't know what, $1,000, I think is what he told us, that to come, and to give him an idea of where that might be, if that was the case.
Yeah.
Well, my memory is not very good.
It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. And so anyway, I happened to be friends of the friend of this Dial.
Okay.
And so just for fun, they said, well, why don't you come down, and we'll go down and see. But they didn't want Devon to be with them. And so we went down. And he knew about, from the stories, about the symbols there and the gold that was supposed to be underneath the ground there. And so at the bottom of the canyon, he kind of pulled out his device. He wouldn't let us see it. And so we kind of stood off to one side, and he says, well, there's gold up there, over there. And so they went over there, and he says, but it's not where they're digging. and that was about it. He says, well, what we're looking for is something, on up the canyon. So,
yeah.
So it took a couple of hours. He says, yeah, there's silver up there. And so he had to take several different readings, from different areas to gradually move in on it.
Mm-hmm. And
when he finally did, it was up, let's see, the right fork of the canyon there, and a couple of mile or so up, and at the very end of his pinpoint and everything, we finally were up on the side of the mountain, and he kind of traced with his foot an area that, from my recollection, was about 4 feet by 6 feet or something like that. And he says it's directly underneath here. And we said, okay. And then we went back and told Devon about it, and he says, well, I'd like to, let's dig down.
He didn't tell you how far down, he just said it was right there, though, huh?
He says, this does not give me depth. It's not. He says, I don't have it well enough to get a depth.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, Asel Bown was the person that he and I were real good friends. And
I talked to Asel. That's how I got your number.
It was from Asel.
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably said, well, Bob probably remembers more than I do.
That's what he said.
Because I was interested. It just came back into my memory a year ago, and so I sat down and wrote this all out.
Oh, really?
And put it down, and the first thing I did was I typed in Devon Stanfield on the internet, and it pulled up your site.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so that gave me some dates. And then the other thing was Lawrence, my brother, 10 years older than me. He's 83. I'm 73. He had been out of work, and so Devon Stanfield said, I will be happy to pay you if you'll come down and help work. And so my brother spent some time there digging. Aisel and I dug down about, I don't know, 2, maybe 3 feet or something like that and hit rock. And so he said, well, we can't do anything and without blasting and without some tools and so forth. And he and I did not have any more time. I had to get on with my life, and he had to get on with his life. And so Lawrence, my brother, got involved. And they dug down another something like, 40 feet or so.
Wow, straight down, huh?
And at that point, they ran into some caves. And at that time, this was, a couple of months later, I had moved to Montana by this time, and I'd come back for a vacation, and Aisel once again said, well, it would be kind of Dial came back to this gentleman, Dial, and said, I'm willing to pay you some more money if you'll come down and try to figure out more about where it might be. So once again, without letting Devon know that we were doing it, we went down to this Dial person, and we had a walkie-talkie, and I climbed down a rope ladder and went and climbed down through the cave, and we found another bigger cave where the ceiling had caved in.
Really?
And I went down there and I walked around, and he could tell where I was.
Huh.
Up above. And he'd say, no, move over more to your right or, to your left. He says, now you're either right on top of it or you're right underneath of it.
Huh.
He says, I can't tell which. And so I, came back up, and that gave us another indication that there was still silver there.
Huh.
So, and that was the last time then that I was there.
Oh, okay.
Originally, we had called the spot Ace in the Hole. That was the name of the claim. And as near as I can remember, it was in my name, because Devon Stansfield didn't want it his name at the beginning. And notice that this is just, trying to pull back into my memory.
Yeah.
Not the best. And then that was it. Aisel and I had nothing more to do with it. But my brother did, and they kept working, and that's then when Devon, senior, was killed there in the mine.
So you just met Devon from the guy who was finding the silver or whatnot.
Yeah, well, I met and shook, and of course spent some time with Devon. I met him personally.
Yeah.
And he, he says, well, I'll pay you. And we said, well, don't worry about it. We're just having fun. And we only spent about 4 or 5 days doing that. And I remember some things about him. He seemed like a nice enough guy and was interested in wanting to get this money so he could make and produce films. That was his, from what I understood, that was his goal in life, was he wanted to do films.
So had he done some films before that, or he was just...
He was involved with some films actually before that.
Okay. And then, well, he wasn't from here, as I remember. He was from California.
He was from California.
What brought him here?
From Hollywood area.
What?
He had been looking around for treasure.
He was a treasure hunter.
I don't know if he was actually a treasure hunter, but at least that was one thing that he felt maybe he could, get some money that he could then make films.
Okay.
I think he tried to put together a corporation, as near as what I can remember. He was married at that time, of course, and had, 1 or 2 children. I just don't remember much. And he wasn't always there because he had to go back to California. In the few weeks that we were involved with him, that was about all I can remember. Never met his wife. because she was in California, and I wasn't even around when he was killed. I was then, on with my life up in Montana, and I just heard about it through my brother, because he almost lost his life.
Oh, wow.
What had happened is, of course, they'd set off a blast, and then Devon was so anxious to go down, because they were just,
knew it was right there. Yeah.
Was gonna, bring them the opening into the cavern, and my brother would say, "No, it's too. You've got to let that gas come out." And this was a side. I haven't even been down there, so I have no idea what it even looks like since when I was sitting on top of it, so to speak, down in that cave. I thought it was pretty neat.
How big did you think it was? As your recollection, how big was it?
Very big. It was about a bedroom.
Okay.
Which is, I could walk around in it a little bit. I could tell that the ceiling had caved in and rocks had fallen down. And there were other passages leading off from that, but you couldn't go very far, and you had to crawl. I mean, they were very small. And they were caved in.
But you could see that there was, at one time, other passages and stuff.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
That is.
I never knew that part of the story. I never knew any of this part of the story. Only knew Jose's side.
Right, and I don't know if he ever came up and visited there or not.
He probably didn't, yeah. He probably had no idea. Devon would have kept it quiet from, what he was doing versus...
Probably. So I have no idea of Devon's dealings with him or whatever. Only from what you have heard from... I met this... What was his name again?
Jose Davila?
Yeah, I met him once at a meeting. And he seemed like, pretty nice guy from what I can remember. And... But I do know that this person that had the device said, well, the gold's not there. They're digging in the wrong spot. Another interesting sidelight of this is I have a sister that was married, and her husband is kind of was a visionary man. He passed away. Her husband was a very visionary man. And he'd have different dreams that he'd tell us about. Well, he heard about this, what Lawrence, his brother-in-law was doing, and so he put he has horses and whatnot, so he put his horse in a trailer, and he went down there and started up the canyon riding his horse, and he realized, wait a minute, I've seen this before.
Really? Had the deja vu, huh?
He says, I know I've seen this before. And then it dawned on him he had had a dream years before. And in the dream, this is his dream, once again, from years of, coming from years of... He'd had a dream that in his dream he saw a group of people, not too many, but several, with several wagons, moving through a valley, and quite a distance behind them was another group of people following them. Looked like they were going to ambush them or, try to do something to them. And the first group of people with the wagons pulled up into a canyon off the valley floor and started unloading. That was the next part of his dream, was unloading, looked like silver ingots into this cave, and stacked it up there, and then hid it, covered up and hid it, and then went on with putting other things in the wagon and went on down, and they were ambushed. And then his dream shifted from that to he himself riding a horse up this canyon towards where they had buried this silver. So when that deja vu hit him, he realized, wait a minute, this is more real than I thought it was. So he spent quite a bit of time up there also working.
So he worked on the same place. He thought maybe it was the same place, huh?
Yeah, he worked with my brother.
Uh-huh.
And then when Devon died, and they kind of just, everything just came to a stop because my brother didn't ever go back down again. My brother-in-law kept digging for, I don't know how many years or whatever. Now, and he's the one that then the claim went to, and he kept, because of his dream.
Yeah.
He felt that there must be something there.
Wow,
and so
interesting.
he started a shaft. This is what I understand. Like I say, I've never been down there
Right.
since all this happened, so I don't know what it looks like. And so he started a shaft going in from the front. And there was a rock slide. You can see that there's a rock slide coming down from where we started to dig. But other people have been down there and have taken detectors down. They're much more sophisticated nowadays, or whatever, anyway. And the silver's not in the same place as it was before.
Huh.
So, who knows?
I
think people have just lost interest because, there's been, at the gold diggings, 2 people lost their lives.
Yep.
At the silver diggings, 1 person lost their lives.
Yep.
And from what you said on your website, I've read several of them, there's other places in the United States that people have lost their lives.
Oh, yep. There is, yeah.
Apparently, we're not supposed to be, worrying about that. But the idea, when he said there's silver down there, and this guy that had the device, this dial, he says it's not like a silver vein. He says there's a whole difference because there's a definite outline.
Huh.
And we figured it was something like, 4 feet by 6 feet long, and I don't know how high it might have been stacked or whatever.
Wow.
That these were solid silver ingots. So it'd be, worth quite a fortune.
So at the time where you was at, could you drive up to it, or did you have to hike up to it?
No, it's probably a couple miles up the canyon on a very steep.
So you'd take horses, or you'd hike up to it, or just stay up there?
We just hike up to it.
Okay. And so
they've changed the trail from what my brother has said. They've changed the trail from one side to the other, and water that comes down there in the spring, has changed everything.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So your brother-in-law, he found more to the caverns, do you know, or did he ever say? Or
I don't think he ever found any more to them. He just was trying to go in from the side.
Oh, he's just trying to get in there because they wouldn't let him go down the shaft anymore.
Well, because it was so dangerous anymore.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, so that's pretty much everything that I know.
That's interesting to hear that side of the story, or that part, because I never ever knew that. I knew they was digging up in the canyon for, I thought Spanish diggings or something, but I really never knew why or what the story was or anything like that.
Well, I guess the concept is the Spanish ingots.
Yeah.
Because he was able to, in his dream, describe these people. He says they looked like, ancient Spanish, the people that were trying to get away. And the other group of people looked like native Indians.
Interesting.
So, anyway.
Yeah, interesting. So now let me ask you another question. You said you wrote up a paper. Would it be possible to get a copy of that from you?
Probably.
Okay.
I don't know why I wouldn't.
Well, I appreciate that.
It's kind of...
Yeah, it's an interesting history. A real interesting history.
So you still working with your site?
Well, I started another group called the Ancient Historical Research Foundation because I started working on some other things. So, I made that site, 10, 15 years ago, and I haven't done with it. I never did finish it. I never did anything with it. But, I'm still actively pursuing histories and doing things and stuff like that. And like I said, these symbols, that are like there in Fillmore, I've tracked down now that there's 25 of them throughout the western United States, 25 sites of them. All across the western United States, and it's a huge mystery why they're there, who put them, and what it means, or what, it's a huge mystery still, and I speculate you know, there's still a lot more. I just found out about a new one of them just last month, you know, of a new site that I had no idea about. So, you know, there's still more out there, and you know, I'll track it down till I die and probably never know what it meant.
So what did Aesel say?
He just said that he really couldn't remember. He had bad memory, and you jogged his memory on. He couldn't even remember. They called it Ace in the Hole because of him. You jogged his memory because of that, he said, and that, you know, he would love to know more about it, you know, and it was interesting to him. And he went down there, and his wife said she went down there once before they got married, but you know, he just really, it was so long ago, he just really couldn't remember really what happened with it. So he said you'd know more.